Hi everybody, my name is Wendy Fee and today I'm going to quickly show you how to create a spotlight card. So these are kind of lovely in that when you have it open you can see just a black and white image on the front, and then when it's open you've got this pretty colored image on the inside. So this one is a holiday Christmas card, but you can certainly make one of these with any background stamp or any kind of repetitive stamping along the front. So I'm going to quickly push this one off to the side and then we'll have a look and see how I made it. So the first thing you need is a piece of thick white cardstock. You do want to make sure that it's thick as opposed to a thin one because you want to make sure that your card is actually going to stand up and not fall to whatever surface it's sitting on. So this is just 8.5 by 5.5, and I went and pre-scored it at the 4 1/4 mark. So just a regular card front like we always know. So the next step is to take your stamp positioning tool, whichever one you're using, and then just put your stamp on the left-hand side on the plate because you're going to go ahead and stamp it on this side. So I like to put a stamp case underneath. This particular background stamp is Festive Foliage by Stampin' Up. And I'm going to place my cardstock onto the right-hand side because I always pull my plate from the left and put it in position. I do know exactly where this needs to be. I have a like a trial piece of paper that I always keep on hand just to make sure that I know where the stamp should be relative to my paper. Okay, so I'm going to ink it up here, just using black Memento ink. You can use any kind of black ink because you're not coloring this part here, but the Memento ink is certainly what you want to use if you're using alcohol markers to color that centerpiece that we're going to cut out. Okay, all right, I think it's inked. And I'm just going to turn it over and push it down. And you do want to press pretty hard because you want to make sure you have a nice image. Okay, let's open it up and have a look and see what I have. Okay, still missing a little bit there in the corner, so I'm just going to ink it again. That's the beauty of one of these tools. All right, so I'm going to ink it again. I'm going to turn it over again, and this time we should have a nice solid image. Okay, push it down a bit harder yet again. Okay, and then when I open it up, there, much better. Oh, actually, a little corner right there. Okay, there we go. Okay, so I'm just going to take this off now and move this out of the way. Okay, so your next step when you're creating one of these cards is that you need to die cut a circle. If you have a circle punch that comes in far enough, you could do it that way as well. I am using a 2 1/8 inch circle, and I like to kind of have it a little bit off the corner there, just so that I, have some edge as well coming around the side. Okay, so normally I would take this and go and die cut it. I have already done one here. You can see where this opening is. Okay, and I actually did start coloring the image as well with my alcohol markers, just so you don't have to sit there and watch me color and color and color. Okay, all right, so I am using Stampin' Up blends, and I started with the holly leaves over there. I just want to make sure it's my old olive. So I'm just going to quickly color in this image with my light old olive blend. Don't worry if you go outside the edges because you can always turn around with a color lifter and just take it back off. And I'm going to add a little bit of highlights here along the veins. I'm going to use my light blend again just to kind of blend it out. All right, there we go. Take it into the corners and turn it around a little bit. Okay, yeah, you can see that I just kind of went off the edge there. I will go back in afterwards with a color lifter and just take that off. All right, so that's our 2 old olive holly leaves. And then these larger leaves over here, I'm going to color these in with Granny Apple Green because that is the color of the cardstock that I'm using for my sentiment on the front. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and add a little bit of color here to the leaves. I'm using the light one again. I like to work relatively quickly when I'm doing this, and I don't necessarily go to the edge on my first pass because I don't want the color to bleed out over the edges if I can help it. Okay, so I've got those 2 big ones here, and then I know there's another one that's just kind of sitting just over here. So I've got that little piece. And then same thing with this one. I'm just going to go back in and add a little bit of color to the veins of the leaf. Okay, and then I'm going to blend that back out. I find by doing it this way, because of course everybody's a little bit different in how they color, but for me, when I do it this way, I find that the image already starts to blur a little bit by the time I go back in to blend it, because the alcohol is still a little bit on that particular image. It hasn't quite dried yet. But as I say, everybody's got their own way, so whatever works for you. Turn that back around one more time. Okay, here we go. Now, while I have this light color out, I'm actually going to take the thin end and I'm just going to color these little pieces here, because I want them to have a little bit of color, but I don't want it to be overwhelming. So I'm just going to add a little bit of something there. And these kind of come right to the edge. So I'm just going to make sure that I add a little bit of color there. I'm not worried about the dots in the center, because if I really want, I can go and cover those up with rhinestones. On the front of the card, I have been known to do that on these ones, because I really like this particular set coming into Christmas. I've been using it a lot. Okay, last thing we're going to do is we're going to add a little bit of color to those, what I'm calling berries. They're not really berries, but they kind of have that berry look, and it really gives a nice color to the card. So I'm just adding a little bit of real red here, and oh, I want the thin end because they're small images. Just going to put a little bit of dark down here at the base where they meet the stem, and then just kind of color it back out yet again. And as I said, I am not concerned if it goes over the edge a little bit, because I can turn around afterwards and take it off with a bit of a color lifter. Okay, so I have that here, and then I'm going back to my card. So I'm going to take it now and I'm going to fold it in half, use my bone folder to get a pretty crisp fold. And then before I glue this down, I want to just double check one more time to make sure that everything is colored on my image. Okay, so this is where it's going to sit in my card. I think I have all the pieces here. Okay, perfect. So I'm going to pop it back out, put some adhesive on the back of it, and then I'm very carefully just going to hold it once again just over top of that image, because I want to make sure that it is placed properly. And once I have its placement, I think I do now, I'm going to glue it down and I'm going to open my card. So I have my card there. So I've got that colored image on the inside, and then the outside is black and white. All right, so I do have a piece of granny apple green, and I have two of them just in case I mess up the first one. I'm going to quickly stamp that sentiment on the front, the Christmas blessings to you and yours. Is it even? It's mostly even, but I'm going to try one more time. Okay. For something like this, when I'm just going on, oh, that's better. I will quite often cut just an extra little piece. You could certainly put this stamp on your stamp positioning tool as well and do it that way if you're going to go ahead and mass produce these. All right, so I have cut, where did it go? I have cut a 9-inch piece of ribbon, and then I'm going to just glue it to the back of this particular piece of cardstock. And I do want to make sure, once again, I have a decent amount of adhesive, because I'm going to just kind of put it on without actually looking at the front. So I'm going to stick that one side down, create a bit of a loop. I do not care if it's even, because I actually would prefer that it's a little bit uneven. And I think I'll have them cross a little bit. Yeah. There we go. How's that look? Oh, maybe a little bit. I'm going to peel this one just back this way a little bit. You have that ability to do so with this kind of adhesive. Okay. All right, good. Perfect. That's the way I want it. Okay. So I'm going to quickly just go and fold this down just another little bit. On the back, I want to add some Stampin' Dimensionals, or just something to kind of pop it up. You do want to put them on the ends, right? But when it comes to the piece in the center, this is going to cover up that opening a little bit. So you do need to be careful that you don't put the dimensionals in a spot where they're going to be seen when the card is open. So that's why I'm just putting them on the ends here. I pop these off. I'm going to turn this over, and I'm just going to glue this down just like this. Okay. All right. So I'm going to quickly open it back up. I'm going to add a little bit of Wink of Stella just down the veins of the leaves. Once again, you can put on as much or as little as you want. Sometimes people are massive fans of glitter. Other people are not. So it's entirely up to you whether you'd go ahead and do this step. And put just a little bit at the base of my red berries. Okay, the inside of my card will then be finished. If you wanted to put some rhinestones on those little dots, you could do that as well. I'm actually going to choose to put mine on the outside. So put a little one just here in the corner. If I can get it off my fingernail. I'm not one of those people who uses all my tools to pick these up. All right, I'm not really placing them in any huge order. I'm just kind of putting them on wherever I feel like, and I'm going to put 5 of them on just to make sure that it's an odd number. Okay. All right, so just to quickly recap, you've got the single stamp on the front. You're going to go ahead and die cut a circle. And then once you have your die cut circle, you're going to go ahead and you're going to color it. Once it's colored, you do want to match it back up with your circle on the front before you glue it down, because that way when the card is closed, it looks like just the section is colored. I did go ahead and stamp the sentiment, glued the ribbon to the back, put the whole thing down with dimensionals, added some Wink of Stella to the center, and added some rhinestones. And once you have that, you are finished your card and you're good to go. I hope you try one of these cards as well. They're really fast and easy to make, as you can see, and you can certainly make a whole bunch of these in a very short period of time. I look forward to seeing what everybody comes up with their own cards. Thank you so much for joining me.